From these ancient mountains, it's impossible to avoid seeing the world differently. The sun is harsher, the clouds almost touchable. The rest of the world is a comfortable distance away, but the plains are closer, familiar, near silent passers-by. And life moves slowly. Life here relies on the long view, on old traditions still far younger than the mountains themselves, and often on family and faith. At the end of a trying week, Palm Sunday brings them together ahead of Easter in nearby Saint-Lézard, more somber and subdued than usual, shaken by tragedy that descended from the skies. We pray for the victims and their families, that God give them strength and comfort, he says. Then, a minute of silence. The silence they know so well here has been overtaken by events. Crisscrossing the skies now were helicopters, noisier and constant, a reminder of the grim task high above. Mountain guide Jean-Louis Beatrix led the gendarme to the site of the crash. He was stunned at the aftermath. Pieces of the plane embedded deep in the earth. Knew that the peaks he's prowled for a quarter century and knows by name had changed inalterably. The mountain mentality is, despite everything, we know how to accept things, he says. We have to accept this. So in the closest village of Le Vernet, they did what comes naturally. Homes, private and public, threw open their doors, waiting for the victims' families. It's the place where you have the best view of the crash site, or at least of the mountain that obscures the crash site, says Josephine Balik, who works at the hotel. Her father, François Balik, is the mayor here, and now the region's unofficial, unflagging spokesman. It was he who organized for a remembrance to be put in stone within view of the stricken mountain. It's just natural for us, he says. It's empathy. These people who died are members of our village. We've gone from 130 inhabitants to 279. Many more since the families started arriving to look up at an indifferent mountain with the secrets to where their loved ones lay. The silence of the Alps has rarely, if ever, been so heavy. On days like this, everyone here, including the Balik family, becomes a guide. But it is a search only they can understand. Only they can feel that exact agony, taking in that breathtaking beauty. An excruciating pilgrimage. Beatrix shares his knowledge and some of the pain. In those mountains he adores are the ashes of a cherished son, also fond of the Alps, who died far too early of leukemia. His focus, though, is on the families. He's volunteered to guide them to the site as soon as it's allowed and accessible, a perch to which the memorial will eventually be moved. Despite everything, the place is beautiful, he says. We can't change what happened. So when they arrive at the site and look around it, they should know the mountain has taken care of their loved ones. When the residents also come to look, their hushed gatherings instantly take on the air of a funeral. They too strain to understand. Watched over by helicopters, cameras, and a still beautiful but tainted mountain. We'll never forget, he says. Now every time we look at the mountains, we'll think of it. Not a single French citizen was killed, but they mourn. The cancelled annual fair, the muted singing, the silent grief. And yet life is slowly returning to its normal course. On Sunday, local elections went ahead as planned, and in between guiding still more visitors, some find catharsis in the rituals of spring. It will take a long time, he says. It won't leave all of a sudden. Le Vernet will be remembered forever for these dramatic circumstances. And those horrific circumstances may one day be remembered not only for the plane and the co-pilot who likely downed it, but for the pilot who tried to save it. His family came to visit, guided by the mayor himself.
On était dans un coin de paradis égaré en Provence, vous le savez.
We were in a corner of heaven here in Provence, he says. They've chosen our corner of heaven for their death. For now, it's been taken away from us. We have to find it again, he says.
Ça redevienne notre paradis.
What they haven't lost is the resilience of that sheer rock. Perhaps only such immovable mountains can shoulder such a burden. Nala Ayed, CBC News, Le Vernet, France.